Hey everyone, today I got my friend Alpha back in. We're actually live right now, so he's about to do a system design interview straight in a live on a live stream. We're gonna get feedback from everyone in here. We're gonna focus more on a product specific system design. And yeah, Alpha has his own YouTube channel as well. Go subscribe to Alpha. He's top 5,000 on lead code, so he's very knowledgeable about lead code. Almost all 1,500 questions, has a crazy 500-day streak. So yeah, he done a lot of algorithms, but wants to do like improve his system design skills. So he's been practicing a lot on that. So let's just get straight into this. Um, Alpha, I want you to design Google Calendar.
Okay. Definitely haven't done this one before, so definitely don't know any of the features.
Curveball. Oh,
Curveball.
you don't know
Yeah.
the features of it?
I don't use it that often, to be honest.
Okay,
Like,
we're just gonna
yeah.
design a calendar, right? Let's
Okay,
talk
okay.
about the like yeah. Walk me through how it's gonna go.
Sure. So we'll just write some stuff that I think is important. All right, so let's say, I guess, a user should be able to view their calendar, right, with some events. Their calendar with some events.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then user should be able to add events to the calendar, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Add events or like add delete or something. Delete, modify events in the calendar.
Sure.
Yeah, so these are the main ones I see. There's other stuff that I see, so I kind of don't know how important it is. Like if you make an event, you should be able to, and yeah, invite like make an event with other people. Um,
Let's not worry about like cross people right now.
so just for yourself. Okay,
For
so
yourself,
okay,
but
so
multiple
view.
devices.
Okay, yeah, cool. Um, yeah, I guess maybe some. Okay, let me mute the or minimize the chat. Don't want to get any hints. All right,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess like another one would be. I mean, I don't know how important reminders. I feel like these are the main two, and then if you have any others, can you like point it out? I guess if you have anything you want to prioritize.
Take a look at Google Calendar and just start listing out, or any calendar app, and try to start listing out functional requirements. I want you to lead the conversation here,
Okay, yeah, sure.
and that's like very valid to do. Be like, oh, can I quickly look at valid calendar or calendar and see what the functionality is? And I also want to get a sense
Okay.
of like your product thinking, like what, like we're a small startup, right? We don't want to
Hmm.
build out all the functionality of Google Calendar in one go. This is kind of our MVP.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
you
sure.
tell me what we should
So
and shouldn't do.
so it looks like user should be able uh to click on particular day and get events for that day, right? So this is just going to be like from 12 to like the whole day or whatever it is.
Hmm.
So that looks like another one. And then I guess another one I'm seeing is you can have multiple calendars.
But like we're a small startup, right? This is our MVP. Do you think we
Hmm.
should like should that go
Okay, yeah.
below
If,
the
if
line
this
or
is your MVP, then I would get rid of this guy.
okay? You could create like a
Um,
below the line portion, just like yeah, because
yeah,
I it's still nice to see that you're able to think of it, but I
yeah. So
want to
below the
see
line
if you
would
can
be
prioritize.
multiple calendars,
Hmm.
and then obviously some kind of multiple user interaction,
Okay.
something like that. Okay. Yeah, I think that's mostly what I'm seeing here. Is like the Yeah, you can like search for people and see their calendars, but that's also going to be multiple users. So I'll just link all that, like adding people to yours, seeing
I
theirs,
see.
blah blah blah.
Okay. So users should be able to view their calendars with some events. What are the different views? I mean, daily, weekly, monthly.
Okay, so let me refresh my calendar here. Okay, so I'm gonna say the way this works is kind of like so one and three are kind of related, where you get a calendar, you click on a day, and then for that day you see the events. Maybe we can also have like a weekly view, I guess. So maybe we
Okay.
can have a weekly view and then like a Yeah, and then so I guess we can add that in. So weekly versus daily in some client thing that we're gonna abstract.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Monthly is probably too much. Like I feel like, yeah, I mean maybe you can have monthly, but I'll just say daily and weekly is probably the two big ones.
Okay. Yeah. Let's focus on daily and weekly.
Okay.
Yeah. Able edit, delete, modify events. Um, is there any other requirements you think that will be useful for MVP?
Uh, yeah, so I guess another one that I'm thinking is, so this event, like these events will have kind of like most other systems, like if we have daily and weekly, we'll have like a short summary, but user should be able to select an event and see details about it.
Okay.
And then from here, like modify, delete, etc. Stuff like
Okay.
that. So I think that's another one I'm seeing that's kind of big.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Two things I would add here would pretty much just be just reminders because that's very important. Like we don't want people missing their. Um, they want to get. We want to notify them when their event is coming up. I think
Okay,
that's
and
a
then to
core feature.
clarify this, like reminder emails or something like that,
Yeah.
or how
Or
would
push
that?
notifications as well.
Okay,
And
all right.
then lastly, recurring events. That's kind of a core feature as well.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry.
No problem. All right. Let's
Okay.
talk about the. Yeah, take me to the non-functional requirements now.
Okay. Okay. So I guess trying to think of like consistency versus availability for this one. I'm thinking like, yeah, I think we want to. This one's kind of close because you're viewing your own stuff. You want to see that like feedback relatively quickly. But I think we can kind of do this client side and then it'll be good. So we can say like we can prioritize availability and then we can have like optimistic client side, something like this, updates. And kind of what this will be is just like a high level. So whenever we make a change, we see it reflected on the client, but then we'll make some call. And then if that call fails, then we'll like update our client to go back to what it was. And assuming we have like, 90 plus like success in our API calls, then this will be pretty good. So the client will see the update quickly, but then realistically, it'll take some time to propagate on the server.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. We're gonna have we want to support multiple devices, right?
Yeah, so we want to support like I guess web plus phone, and then whatever tablet or some other stuff. Yeah, not super familiar with like anything other than web, so I'll kind of figure this out. Okay, and then let's see what else we want here. So we obviously want to be able to handle like a large amount of users, I guess. Users and yeah, just like high traffic. And then you can give me numbers here if you want. I don't think for a calendar we have things like surges. Like I'm just gonna assume kind of uniform distribution of requests, especially if we're gonna do this in multiple countries. So I'm gonna say we're not gonna have like surges for this kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
So
And
we
I
have
think
a availability here, right? So what if I'm
yeah.
like looking at it on my phone versus looking at it on my computer and I'm seeing two different things for consistency? Like it's
Uh,
not
so
consistent.
so I think So I think we want to have it as consistent as possible. So I'll say like we can have availability with like a couple seconds difference in consistency. Something
Mm-hmm.
like that ideally is what we'll go for. So it won't be like instant, but it will be pretty close.
I see.
Because and yeah, I guess maybe if you literally like pull your phone up to your browser and then like change something, you won't see it instantly, but it'll be pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
So that and I don't think that's like a real like product use case of you have them up together and you're just like double checking for exact sync type thing.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
So
I
yeah.
agree. I agree. I agree. Um. Okay. What else?
Let's see. Where's phone tablet? Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm seeing anything else? Maybe I missed something. Yeah, okay, I guess can I get like, yeah, is there anything else you're looking for? I think this is like the most, yeah, kind of like most of the stuff
Yeah, so handle large amount
that
of
I'm
users
thinking
and
of.
traffic. Yep, I think that's good. Yeah, I mean the reminders should definitely go like the reminders should definitely go out kind of thing. But let's just yeah
Well, we have the
technical.
reminders up here, yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Um, like maybe like exactly once reminders or like at least once reminder
Oh, I
would
see.
be a
Yeah, so we can
non-functional.
mention that. So we can say like reminders are crucial, don't miss them, um, and make sure we don't get spammed or something. So only one email or something. Or whatever. I guess we that could be a product thing, right? So we can say like maybe remind them like an hour before and the day before or something. So whatever. Make sure we follow product reminder schedule or something it is. Because yeah, I guess this is also a real thing I worked on is we do a lot of like reminder email type things, and if you send multiple, then people complain. So yeah, you don't want to have like duplicate emails and things like that. You want to make sure it works correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay,
What's next?
I feel like that's it. Maybe there's some more stuff, but kind of want to go on to other stuff. Unless
Mm-hmm.
you think I'm missing something, just because I want to try to get a design working.
Yeah. Let's get it.
All right,
Keep it.
so
Keep it.
let's toss this out for now, just so I can make this smaller and see everything. Yeah, I'm also noticing in this, like the I don't know, the text seems just like oh, it's maybe because
Kind of
I
ugly, huh?
see. No, it's okay. I think it's just like zoomed in a lot, so it's kind of hard to fit it all. So okay, I
Oh,
think
what?
I'm good here.
You could
I
zoom
just like,
out though.
huh?
You could zoom out, like zoom
Yeah,
in
that's
and
what I
out.
did. I just zoomed out. I don't know if you see the same. Yeah, I just made it
Yeah.
like 50% and then it's better.
Yeah. I can up. I'm like I can. I'm updating myself, or like I can move around myself.
Okay, cool. All right. So I guess the next thing is we can worry about the like the core entities here. And so what we're gonna have here is, I guess we'll have the user, and then so we probably want to have like an event, and then I guess how do we want to store the calendar for the user? Mm, I guess maybe we'll store just to keep it simple. I guess we can have like a yeah I guess calendar day or something. I don't know. And so the calendar day will have the yeah we'll talk about exactly what's in there. But I think these three can help us tie everything we need. So user event and then a calendar day and then this will all be linked together. Does that sound pretty good?
Sure.
Okay. So then we can go to the API.
We could actually. Could you explain what the calendar day is gonna do?
Yeah, so the calendar day will have like an actual day, um, and then it'll also be tied to a user, um, and then events will have a user and a calendar day, so we can kind of like put it all together. Maybe there's a better way to store this
Okay.
information, but just going for this for now.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Let's continue.
Okay, so yeah, I guess for the API, we're just gonna go through the function requirements and check those. So the first thing looks like we want to be able to view a calendar with some events. Weekly versus daily. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go like get calendar, and then we want to be able to uh, for this calendar we want to put in weekly versus daily. So we'll say like in here like time frame. This will be like weekly versus daily, and then we'll have yeah. So the user information is going to be somewhere else, so we don't need to provide that here. And then oh yeah, then we also need to. So I guess this will be like the. So actually, the time frame will actually be. I guess we can provide that in the time frame instead of weekly versus daily. We can just provide some time frame. So we
Mm-hmm.
can just say like start day or whatever, end day, something like that.
Sure.
Okay, so we provide a time frame to the get, and then we're gonna get what we're gonna get back here is an event or like a partial event list. So we don't need full information. Just looking at like Google Calendar, we basically just need like a title or something small. And then once we click on them, then we can get more information. So we're gonna get this back. Then we're gonna go. Uh, we want to get an actual event, so we're gonna say events with an ID, and then this will. So once we click on an event, we're gonna click on an event, and then we're gonna see the full event information. So it's like full event info here. Okay. And then we want to be able to, yeah, add, delete, modify events here. So we're gonna have these three. So we're gonna have a post, events, um, yeah, and it'll take a body of like date, uh, some event data. Not gonna talk about that in detail. Whatever we decide our event schema is gonna look like. Um, yeah, so date, event data. We're gonna already have the user because they're gonna be sending the request. Yeah, I think that's all we need there. And then we're gonna have patch events, and then the post won't return anything, so this will just return like a 200 or something if it worked. Patch events with
Paul's
an
saying you have a
ID.
Sigma voice. I don't know what that means, but
Sigma voice. No, I know my mic is like pretty bad. I'll try to use the other one later. Yeah, I don't know what a Sigma voice is, but like watching the videos from before, it's like my headset mic's pretty bad. So okay, so yeah, so this patch events ID will return an full event info. So typically when you do a patch, you get like a full update, and then the body here will be yeah, whatever the patch was. So the same kind of thing. The date we're probably never going to change, but we're going to change some event data, and then we'll also have a delete. The same thing, events ID. It'll return the full event. And then we don't need a body for this one. We just provide an ID and it's just deleted. Okay, so that takes care of 1 and 2. Um, Also 3 is taken care of. Click on a day, so we're just going to get the event. Should be able to select an event, get more details about it, modify, delete. I think we took care of that as well. Reminders and reoccurring events. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's another thing I need to add is for all of these, we're going to have an event data, and then we're also going to have like a reoccurring, and this can be like an optional thing. So if it's reoccurring, you want to put it everywhere, and if it's not, then you don't. And actually, this is probably worth thinking about how this, uh, yeah, I guess how this, like, if we have a reoccurring event, we need it forever. So we need to make sure that like we can present it well and we can also modify it well, and it'll show on every calendar day. So if we have an event that's on a calendar day, if it's reoccurring, um, yeah, I guess that's going to be maybe troublesome. So I guess maybe we'll fix that a little bit later once we get an overall design. Um, I think right now I'll just say, actually, let's see.
okay. Where are we using this calendar day?
Yeah, so we're using the calendar day. Actually, we might not even be. Yeah, we might not even need it. Yeah, I'm thinking we don't even need it. So a user can just have an event, and then that event can just be. Yes, I think we can actually get rid of this guy.
Okay.
So the event can just have like the date on the event, and then we can just have these two. But the
Okay.
main concern I have is like if we do have an event that is reoccurring, like what should the user experience be there? Like what if I click like 50 years in advance? Should it show that event right away or like that kind of thing?
It should.
It should. Okay. So we need to somehow figure out like for that day or for that whatever, what events are what events are going on.
Mm.
Okay, I guess we'll just have some really simple for now. All we're gonna do is to get this partial event list, we're just gonna go like the brute force, take every event for the user, and then check does that occur on that day. So we can have like the initial day, and then we can see if it's reoccurring or not, and then we can just do a calculation of like does it occur on the day. So right now we're just gonna brute force get every event for the user, and then we're gonna try to make it better if we have time. Does that make sense?
Get every event from the user
Yeah. So
and see
like
if any are
so so
recurring.
so when we do this, when we get a time frame, right now, all we're gonna do is we're just gonna get every single event that the user has, uh, and then check if they're in this time frame.
Okay,
So we're just gonna do some brute force, like take everything,
I
and
see.
then we can probably think of a way to make this better as
Yeah.
like a deep dive or something like
Yeah, actually, okay. Let's actually reserve recurring events and also reminders for the deep dive. Let's just get into the other portions quick.
that.
Can you
Okay,
just
yeah, cool.
quickly walk me through the APIs again?
Yeah. So the first one is just gonna be we're gonna get um actually I don't think this is even gonna be calendar. I think we can even call because we don't have the calendar, we can just call events.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're gonna get all of the events. We're gonna give a time frame that we want to get the events for, and we're gonna get a partial event list. So it's just gonna be like, yeah, list of like event names and then when they occur, so we could actually show our calendar, our daily or weekly calendar. Does that make sense?
Okay. How are we gonna make sure anything like we have to consider here when getting the calendar or the events, like
Anything we have to
security?
consider? Oh yeah, yeah. So as long as we have the user ID and like a JWT, as long as it's not like which we don't have it here, I don't think we have to worry about. I think that's the main security concern is we don't want to have user info in the request because then someone can just like find the user info and just make get requests on their behalf. I guess that
Mm-hmm.
would be like the main one I see.
Yeah. So how do we stop? How do we make sure we get our calendar and only our calendar and no one else's calendar?
Yeah, so we can just have like when we make the get request, we can just have a JWT for the user, and then on the server we're gonna decrypt that JWT and get the user ID out of there, and then we're only gonna get the calendar for that user.
So the JWT is going to be sent to the front end and is going to have the user ID.
Oh yeah, like a JWT I think is like a hashed. It could be whatever you want it to have, just hashed.
And
So
then
even if someone gets it, they can't use it.
when they send it over, so they're going to send the JWT back to the backend.
Yeah,
And
they're
this
gonna send. Yeah, so I think the way it works is you get a JWT, you store it on the front end, and then with all your requests, you send the JWT, and then the backend decrypts the JWT and gets like the user info out of that.
okay, I see. Yeah, because the JWT is plain text. I mean, it hashes it, but you can easily look into it. It's not like encrypted. The JWT.
Yeah.
So if we have like information there, they might be able to steal it. But yeah, we could probably deep dive it in a different one too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think yeah, you have understanding of like okay, we need to be passing in some sort of session or JWT, so we only get
Mhm.
our stuff.
Yeah.
Um, could you walk me through the rest?
Yeah. So this one's pretty straightforward. We're gonna take an event. So once we have these events on the front end, we're gonna click on it, and then we're gonna call get events ID. So this will take an event ID and it will get the full event info for the ID. So like Google Calendar, you see your calendar, you click on an event, and then you're gonna get like a modal or whatever it is with all that event info, and then you can modify from there. You can like delete and whatever. So it'll just give you more information. I think it's like pretty standard for most of these, right? You want to get partial info in a list or something, and then when they click on it, you can provide more.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, posting.
Yeah, so post, we just basically make it a new event. We don't really need to return it. We can just return 200, or we could return the event. I think this is like whatever. Either one should be fine. We're gonna have the date. We're gonna have the event data, whatever is in that event, and then we're gonna have a reoccurring variable. Right now, yeah, I won't really talk about the reoccurring too much.
Yeah.
We'll just say maybe we'll even say like we have no reoccurring events for now because those are really easy because they'll have an exact date. The reoccurring, there's a little bit more or less work or more work that we can do a deep dive
I
on
see.
how to make it work better.
Okay, let's get into the high level design because I want to spend at least 20 minutes on the deep dive.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So high level design. Yeah. So we're just gonna go through all of this. So let's say, okay, I think I need to zoom out some more. So can I get? No, I can't. Okay. Yeah. The annoying thing is like once you start typing, that little window on the left comes up. Okay, I'm trying to move it over here.
What window?
All right, this is
Oh,
better.
I see.
Okay,
I see.
so we'll
There's
have
the
our
link.
client, and this can be whatever, a web app. I'm not gonna talk about the client too much unless we need to. So if we need to
Sure.
start something on the client, I'll add more stuff. So let's just make sure we can get all these things. So client API gateway. Okay, and so the API gateway is gonna do things like rate limiting and then sending things to the right service. Yeah, I guess maybe some other stuff, but this can just be out of the box, or you can yeah, especially for like a startup, we can just use like an out-of-the-box API gateway. I
Mm-hmm.
know for my company we have our own, but yeah, I guess you can use an out-of-the-box as well.
I see.
Okay, so and yeah, I'm just gonna draw these, or I'll just draw these arrows to indicate that information goes both ways. And then we're gonna have, so I guess what service do we need? I guess for now we'll just keep it simple. We'll just have only one service. So maybe we won't even need the API gateway, but we'll just do this. So this is going to be our like calendar service, and then we'll see if we need to add anything else. I guess we probably will, because for reminders we might need like a notification service. So okay,
I see.
so we'll have a calendar service. I guess maybe we can even write that now, a notifications service.
Okay.
Okay, so this will be connected like this. So let's just talk about, I guess, the flow of each of these.
Yeah.
So first, to get all the events. So we're going to send a request. It's going to go to our calendar service. Gonna check our DB here. Say our DB is this. And then we'll just use like Postgres or something for now. I don't think there's a big, like I don't see a big one way or the other, but you can kind of use whatever DB you're good with.
Yeah.
I think nowadays most DBs can do most things, so unless it's something very specific, it doesn't really matter.
Sounds good.
Um, so yeah, so we're gonna get all these events. So now we can talk about a little bit higher level, or a little bit lower level, like what are actually in these entities, these user and events. So in the user, we're gonna have a user ID. We're gonna have like a name, like last name, whatever. And then do we need anything else? I don't see anything right now, but we can add on to this if we see something. Okay. And then for the event, we're gonna have a user ID. Like I said, not going to focus on recurring for now, so we'll just have a date of the event. We'll have metadata of the event, or whatever like data is in like event info, we'll call it. And you can have a bunch of stuff. This is just going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that in detail because you can describe like what you want in an event later. But we'll just say we'll have some info, and then we'll have some metadata like created at, updated at, whatever, all that stuff. So I think this is mostly what we need.
Date info.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah. What could we just elaborate a bit more on of these event infos? I think for this question is kind of important.
Sure. So looking at the Google Calendar, let's say when you make an event, you just have like a paragraph of text for the event to describe it, to keep it like really simple. So you make an event, you just write a paragraph of text describing what the event is. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah. I'm more
So
thinking
essentially
about
on,
also
oh,
like
go ahead.
when we put something in a date, right? Usually there's also a time, like 5 to 6. That's very important. How are you
Yeah.
capturing
So
that?
yeah. So this will be like a. I think we want both. So we want date time. We
Okay.
don't actually want a date. We want a date and a time. Yeah. Because for our daily events, we need to know the time as well. We could split this up as well. We could do this too.
That will give
But
us
yeah.
a start date or start time only.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, I actually missed that one. So yeah, so we actually need both. So we need a start date and date, and probably start time and time actually, something like this. Yeah, because yeah, actually this event, yeah, like this, maybe this event takes a year or something. I don't know.
I
Okay,
see.
so that
Okay.
makes sense.
Let's just say they can't go multi-day kind of thing for now. Just give it a easy. It's just a
Oh,
single
okay.
day between. Yeah.
Yeah, single day. Okay, so we'll go date and then like this. Yeah, that makes sense. So that way when we show their daily view, if that event takes multiple hours, we can move it through.
Yep.
Okay, does that seem good? And
Yep.
then we're gonna avoid the edge cases of like starting, like 11:59 and then going to the next day, things like that. We'll just avoid that kind of stuff for now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, so essentially when they're gonna get their events here, they're gonna call our calendar service in our DB, and we basically need to um, take every event that I guess. So they're gonna provide us, like, yeah, I guess when they want to get all their events, they're going to provide us either a day or multiple days. We're not going to allow them to do like a specific time frame, because looking at like the Google Calendar, for example, you can either pick like a week or like a day. So you can't just say like I want all events from like 2 p.m. to something. So this is just going to be based on days. And then if it's based on days, we can just check the date of the event. And if the date is in that range, then we're going to get those events back to the user. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's how we're going to do this first one. Then for the second one, it's going to be pretty straightforward. If we have an event ID, we have a user ID, and then I guess I missed that one. So we have the event ID, which will just be the primary key of the event, and then we can just get that back. So that one's like the easiest. Post events is also going to be pretty easy. Call our calendar service, make a new event. Yeah, and then yeah, I guess also looking back here. So we want to have that start time, end time.
Okay. Let's hop into deep dives because we want to keep it under
Cool.
15 minutes. So I want to spend 7.5 minutes on recurring events and another 7.5 minutes on reminder emails.
Okay,
Let's just start
so
with that. Yeah, the first one. Like, how
yeah,
are we gonna do recurring?
so for recurring events, kind of tricky because their date keeps going on, and
Mm-hmm.
so like you said, so I can put in any date in the future, any amount in the future, right? Like a million years in the future, and
Yeah.
it should have that event.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technically. Yeah.
So then, I think the better way to do that is maybe store recurring events. Yeah, I think this is the way to go. Store recurring events separately,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe give a recurring like give. So actually, what we want to do is we want to have like a recurring or not, right? And then what we want to do is we can make another call for recurring events. So for the daily events and all that stuff, we can pull that up with getting the time. But the recurring events we can probably pull up separately, or maybe we can cache in some way. But what it's going to look like is we're going to pull up all the recurring events for the user, and there actually can't be that many, like realistically, because in order to recur, um, yeah, like I guess let's talk about this. So when you say recurring, it's going to be like weekly or monthly or yearly or something like that, right?
Yeah, and the day, like weekly, every Tuesday.
Right. So there's not going to actually be that many. So let's just say there might be like 200 or 300 at the most.
Mm-hmm.
And then so we get all those, and then we just check like for that range that they put in, when do those events occur? So yeah, instead like my strategy before I think was really bad was if you make a recurring event and um and you like I was trying to propagate it forward, right? So if an event occurs, I was just going to keep making more and more and more of
Mm-hmm.
them. And that seems really bad if you can just go a million years in advance, and it also
Mm-hmm.
seems really slow for the delete. So yeah, so I
Mm-hmm.
think what we're going to do for the recurring events is we're going to get those in a separate query, and then we're just going to check. Okay, for all these recurring events, we're not going to have a year on those events because they should be, yeah, basically recurring. Like, just to keep it simple, maybe we'll only limit it to like a specific date, time in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of supporting like every week, every other, like all that, we'll just say like we can only have X date, time, in a month.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And with this, we can basically just check like, okay, is their query they're provided? Um, does our recurring event happen at that date time? So
Yep.
we're not going to have the year. We're just going to have the date and then yeah the time, and then we're kind of separately get those recurring events. And because there can't be that many, it won't be that bad.
Okay.
So I feel like that's the way to go. And
So
then we can also delete them
I
faster.
see. That makes sense. So the front end gets all events, and it also grabs recurring events. Some recurring events might not be applicable to a certain time range, but we'll just filter those out, and then be able to
Yeah,
like
yeah,
show.
yeah.
Okay.
So the back end will actually filter out only the relevant ones because you want to send the minimal information you can to the front end, right?
Yep.
So the back end will filter out the irrelevant ones, and it will basically, yeah, exactly, send all only relevant recurring events, and then the front end can just put those on the yeah
Yep.
there. And that's
Okay.
it.
So walk me through the process of like I click 4 years ahead, and I want to see the recurring events on like the week of
Cool.
March 9.
Yeah. So if I click 4 years ahead, um, I'm gonna call this get thing right at start day and end day, and then the year and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because for actual events, the year does matter, right? So start day, end day, the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna get all the actual events in just a normal join. Like we're gonna get all the events that happen to be in that range.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think we can like index on the date and stuff. We can index on user ID. We can index on the date to make this like reasonably fast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we're gonna get the recurring events separately. So the recurring events won't have a year. So let's say like if I want to do like March 9th through 15th. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, we can even store this in a separate event. Maybe that'll be cleaner. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe we can even have this separate like recurring events here table.
Mm-hmm.
And then this will be kind of similar. So we get rid of this. Um, and then yeah, something. So it'd be kind of similar. I don't know what's better, one or the other, but let's just say we do it this way. So the date won't have a year. It will only have the day and the month. So we just check like, okay, let's get all the recurring events that are in this range. Uh, so we actually don't care about we don't care about the month either. So we're only supporting date, time, in a month. So for the recurring event, we'll just check like, okay, what are all these recurring events that occur on uh yeah, I guess you also mentioned for the date we can only it doesn't have to span across multiple days.
Yeah.
So the date will literally just say here instead of March 9th, it'll just say like 9. Um, and that means that it occurs every month on the 9th.
Sure.
And then so we can take that range and then we can see like okay, what are all the recurring events that are in this range and then we can pass it back. I'm sure that you could do some better database optimizations, but I think this is probably something like the way to go.
Okay.
And you can probably optimize this further,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I like it. Yeah. Let's go to notifications.
All right. So I guess for notifications, can do we want to have multiple notifications? So in terms of like, let's say our event happens in a day or an hour, like when do we want to notify?
We want to notify everyone 5 minutes before their event starts. And if they edit it or move it, we don't want to notify them that. Like, we don't want false alarms, false positives, or false notifications. That
Okay,
makes
yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah. Cool. So, oh, you mean like, so can you elaborate further on if they edit it?
So, for
Like
example,
when?
I had a interview from 5 to 10, or ours was from 2 to 3. Pretend
Mm-hmm,
I can't make it, so I move it to the next day, 2 to 3. Pretend we
mm-hmm.
don't send out that notification to them today. We
Gotcha.
instead send it tomorrow. That's like just make sure that edge case, we capture that edge case.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So I think what we can do is we can assume that I guess one thing I'm thinking really quickly is we can assume all our start times are going to be like let's say we only allow them to start every mm, like yeah we can make this a product requirement or something. Let's let them start every 10-minute intervals or something like that. Does that seem reasonable? So you know
For
so they can start at like 10 or 20 or 30, but they can't start at like 21:58 or
yeah,
whatever.
let's just say they can start every 30 minutes.
Okay, every 30 minutes, perfect. So what we can do is we can have our notifications can query the DB. If they can start every 30 minutes, we'll just query the DB at like 25 minutes. So 25 minutes and then at 55 minutes. And we can just literally say like, okay, well, what are all the events that start in 5 minutes? And then for all of those, we can send out an email. And I think that's going to be like the
Okay.
easiest.
So we're gonna have a cron job.
Oh yeah, so this can be yeah, basically like an async job that just queries the event table, uh, checks for all the events that are going to start in 5 minutes, and then sends out an email to all of those. So for the event, you're going to be able to get the user ID. User ID will have like an email, and then we're going to be able to email them like, hey, you have this event. We can send them the event info in 5 minutes. Make sure you don't miss it. I think that's the easiest.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have this cron job that's gonna run like 5 minutes before notifications need to go out.
I mean, we can figure out how long this takes. Like, do we need it to be sent out exactly 5 minutes before, or
Yeah,
like roughly?
we need
Okay.
to send it 5 minutes before.
Okay, so in that case, what we want to have is maybe we can have a. Hmm, yeah, I'm trying to think of like how long it takes to get all of these events, and then.
Yeah. Cause okay, could you explain the cron job quick? Like you're gonna have like one cron job that's looking at the database and figuring out who to send to, and it's gonna send these out serially. Like what it's gonna query the database, right? It's gonna get a list of all
Hmm.
the events, and it's gonna go one by one, sending them out. What if the list is really long?
Right. Hmm.
Like it might be late, right? I have 100, and maybe it's slow and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah. Like if I do this and then there's a lot and then it's yeah. So ideally we want to have it maybe a better solution would be to have it ahead of time in some way, right? So to have some kind of like these are the emails I need to send. Now there is the drawback with that of if I modify, then I need to like update that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so maybe instead of that, maybe we can have like a cache or something. Not really sure how like the best way to do this one actually. I mean, the alternative to doing it at this time, we can just query at like 20, 30 minutes and like this or something. And then that way we'd have it, we'd already have all this when we
Okay.
need it. And then we can just send out emails like in parallel. We don't need to do it synchronously. So this might be another way to go about it simply. There's probably some other better way to do this, but this is like the fast way, I guess. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Okay. So how would we scale it if there's a lot of? Are we gonna like make that cron job, like give more, throw more CPU at that one cron job?
Yeah, so we can definitely also we could throw more CPU at that one cron job, or we can also just have more cron jobs, I guess, of
Mm-hmm.
like we can basically like do like a hashing to cron job or something like, where essentially we'll say like, this cron job will take some hash of the event IDs, and then this other cron job will take some other hash of the event IDs, so that way like each cron job is responsible for like a smaller piece.
I see.
Um,
Okay.
so that would be another way. I do feel like there's probably something better here, but I'm not seeing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're thinking about horizontally scaling it, and then they coordinate with each other by basically like, okay, I'll handle these specific events, and you handle those, and that way
Exactly,
they don't send it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
you can basically scale this notification service to just hash on event IDs, and then we can just infinitely horizontally scale that.
I
Yeah.
see. I see. Okay. Yeah, I think the cron job would work. Like, but they would look every what? Like, how often would they look? And just like the same thing I mentioned, it's like, what if it has way too much events to send itself? Like, how are we gonna scale up or scale? How do we know when to scale up or scale down?
How do we know when to scale up or scale down?
Because at some point, right, there's gonna be way too much events that if it reads it in, it might be late to sending events if it has to send the events one at a time.
Well, we can scale up and scale down just by making more of these, right? So like if we have more events, we can just make more instances of this. So it'll keep reading less. Like if we just hash the event ID with like consistent hashing, we can just keep adding more and more notification servers, and then each one will be responsible for reading less and less events.
Mm-hmm.
So even though
Okay,
we have more events, we also have more servers and then more jobs, and then they're essentially getting less and less and less
I see.
each.
Okay, yeah, I think we're at 43 minutes. So, yeah,
Okay.
how do you think you did?
Yeah, so this one, so the leak code one I have seen before. This one I've never seen before, and I don't know the product requirements. So it's definitely a tricky one. And I'm kind of glad you didn't ask me some like YouTube streaming or something ridiculous that I would have literally never like. I do feel like most of these problems are kind of similar to leak code, where there's like 5 or 10 patterns you need to memorize, and then everything can be kind of like brought into those. Yeah, and because maybe this one isn't one I've seen before. Also, I haven't used notifications before really, and I don't do that at work. I'm not super familiar with it. Like I said, the way we have notifications is we do have emails, um, but we also don't have like the scale of Google Calendar or whatever, so it's not a big problem.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
see.
I think I feel like I did okay. Like
Yeah,
definitely not too bad.
yeah,
Definitely could have like deep dove more, but I do feel like my solutions were at least like adequate for like mid level. I want to say maybe not
yeah.
for like higher.
Okay, yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah, I would say for mid level, yeah, that would pass. But I think for the senior level, like being able to understand the notifications would or be able to like scale the notifications would be like required. Especially notifications are pretty much in every single system. So as a
Hmm.
senior, I think that would definitely go on. So I think okay, what I would say is yeah, for him his solution was a cron job. Um, yeah, I think you obviously have a really good flow, like walking through the functional requirements, non-functional requirements,
Hmm.
um, core entities and stuff. I would say with the functional requirements, if you haven't seen it before, just like yeah, practicing how you do requirements gathering, especially at the senior level, we want to make sure that you're able to gather requirements.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, but I think overall you're able to grab it. You missed a few functional requirements, that's why. But for the intermediate, that would pass.
Hmm.
Like being it, like I think one thing you missed was like the different views at first, and then
Right.
able
Yeah.
to. I think reminders is a core part
Yeah,
of it. But I
reminders
guess
and reoccurring, I guess, are like pretty crucial. So makes sense.
yeah, core entities and APIs, you're obviously really good at that because I mean, pretty product focused. I think one thing that you could look into a bit is the sessions, how the sessions work and stuff. 'Cause I feel like
Hmm.
every
Yeah.
time I pulled into it a little bit just to see.
Yeah. No. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the recurring events. Really good job on the recurring events though. Like this is the solution I would do too. Some
Have
candidates
a
would
separate
be
table.
some candidates would be like, okay, somebody who creates a recurring event, then we'll just like pre-create all of those events into a million years or like
Right. I was just thinking like that would be terrible because we can keep like if we had some product requirement where we can't look too far ahead or than the past, then it's fine. But otherwise, but yeah, then cleaning it up and editing it also going to be terrible. So.
exactly. I think your approach here for querying for events and then looking for recurring events that might land in like your range, that's pretty good. Really good optimal solution.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, just the notifications part. When we were getting into that, you're yeah, I think one way that I've seen it done is to use like some sort of priority queue that's sorted by the next reminder by timestamp, so we know what reminder to go out. So it's like as events are created, we put it on some queue where we have workers that will look for when notifications need to be sent out, but it's all sorted based on timestamp, and then we could scale those workers up and down, and then pretty much when they look at the 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 front of the queue, if it needs to go out, one of those workers will take it and then send out the notification kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess the tricky thing there would be like if you add more events to like the middle or something, like how to make sure. Well, yeah, actually, no, a priority queue would handle that.
Yeah, so
So that
it's be a
that is
priority queue,
actually better. I
and
guess the
it's
downside with that would be you have to have like every event in the queue, um,
well
at all
as
times.
as events are created, right? We'll push it into the queue, and then when they're
Right, but
edited, we can
you're
like
gonna
pop
have
it out.
events that are like let's say you have a recurring event that's yeah, like how do you handle a recurring event in that case? You have to keep pushing in. Well, and actually I think I know how to do a recurring event. Yeah, never mind. You can just
Like
say like if the event is recurring and I sent an email, then add the next instance of the recurring event, right? That would handle it.
yeah, there's ways to do it, but I think yeah, though a queue would be like I think it would be a better way than just keep
Than
querying the
this.
database, like have a bunch of cron jobs constantly querying the database kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean ideally, yeah, ideally you want to minimize the querying. Makes sense,
Because you
yeah.
want to because then you're dealing with horizontally scaling, right? Pretend I have
Yeah.
one who has to handle a range of events, and that one goes down. Now that person can't send it for that their specific range. Somebody else has to take over that range, like a different machine. But if you
Yeah,
have a
yeah, that makes
queue, you could
sense.
just spin up and spin down, and they don't really care about a range, but they just care about who's in the front of the queue, and they fight for like that element, and one
Yeah,
person will send
it's
it out,
easier
kind
to
of thing.
scale because you don't need to like hash run anything. It's literally yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Overall, yeah, really good job on like for the mid level. I think that would definitely pass. I think for the notifications though, that's like tables like that's key for like that's the key part of here that of this question. Well, not
Hmm.
really a key, but like I definitely would have liked a good approach there on the notifications. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think what I said, like, I don't feel like it's terrible, but it
Mm-hmm.
definitely could be better. So, like, I feel like if I didn't have anything or something worse, then it would be bad. But I feel like it
Yeah.
was kind of like, yeah, like I said, good enough for the mid level, and then there's definitely other things I can look into. And yeah, this is one of those, like I was saying, this is one of those, like, 10 or 12 or whatever things you need to know for system design, where once you know how to do notifications once, you can just copy that to everything else. So,
Yeah. And there might even
Yeah.
be a better way to do notifications. If you ever looked that up, let me know. That's just the way. Like I've got asked this before, and I said that, and it ended up passing. I never actually
Mhm.
looked it up. Like this is not a common interview question that you could just look up online and people have the whole solution for, which is why
Yeah,
I decided to
exactly.
ask it. But yeah, I think
Mhm.
it's good though to see stuff that you never seen, and I think you did well though. Especially
Yeah.
like most of the time when you're interviewing, you should probably have seen it before if you studied hard enough.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I'm kind of like trying to learn all the common ones, so then I don't run into a yeah, if I do interview for more stuff or whatever, I won't run into a I don't know it at all type of thing, because that definitely is like the hardest.
Yeah,
I know for
totally.
leak code, if you've never seen that like pattern, you're pretty much drawing dead.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Yeah, I think, and then even notifications will get interesting too, of like how to send it to different devices and stuff at a high level. But
yeah,
yeah, I think the recurring events that part is really impressive because yeah, some people like I have asked that a few times and people aren't able to get the recurring events.
okay.
Cool. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Chat, how do you think he did?
Oh yeah,
Stop
I
the
can open the
recording.
chat again.